see if we are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the September Stitch and Bitch live show. It's a bit of an odd month. We are missing Bree because of other circumstances. We are missing Rhea, who is off, hopefully having a fantastic time at a birthday party this weekend. And we're at a different time because other people here have obligations later. So it may be a bit of a shorter live show, but we have things to talk about. So, hi, Joe. How are you doing? Let's start off with really quick introductions. We'll go around and introduce ourselves and throw in, if you are working on a craft, what you're working on. My name is Rachel. We're on my channel, Colonati. I'm frantically trying to get to the end of my row so I can show you my craft. Hang on. I read a lot of science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction, and I talk about it here every month during the live shows, since I am still on an indefinite hiatus from making booktube videos. My craft today is a very weird-looking sock. This is a fully ribbed sock, so it collapses down, but I swear it is actually a sock. There's a heel in here somewhere, but it looks super strange because it's all ribbing. So my goal today during the live show is to finish this sock because I've only got like 5 inches and it's really quick to knit up. So I am, for some reason, in a big sock knitting mood. I haven't knit socks in like 2 years, and all of a sudden I just really want to knit socks. So probably because I got like plenty of sock yarn when I was in Scotland. I'm like, what am I going to do with the sock yarn? Oh, yeah.
What makes a yarn sock yarn?
Usually it's reinforced with nylon, which makes it last longer.
And it gives it a little bit of stretch.
Yeah.
Right?
They're also usually superwash, which means it's treated wool that can be washed and dried with your regular laundry and it won't shrink or felt or anything. Although I will say things that are advertised as being superwash nylon sock yarn, they can be destroyed in a laundry machine. I am not careful enough with my knits. This is actually DK weight sock yarn, so it's like twice as thick as the usual like sock yarns. And it's been a very long time since I knit heavier weight socks, and it's like that dopamine hit whenever you start like a small project and then you can finish it really quickly. And that's probably why I'm really into socks right now. They take me like a week to knit instead of a month to knit a shawl or a sweater or something. So hello, KJ. Haven't seen you in a little while. Yes, there's a great potential for washer dryer chaos. A lot. Anyway, that's it for me. Kelsey.
I'm Kelsey. My channel is The Fancy Hat Lady Reads, where I am still semi-regularly posting booktube videos. My craft, it has been for the past several months, is to finish this tiny embroidered bee pattern that I bought at Michael's, and then I want, because it's September and next month is October, to then start on the larger one that I got, which is the fall pumpkin, because I'm feeling seasonal. However, I am going to have to run off and go looking for my instructions for this, which I have misplaced, which are going to tell me what color I'm supposed to use for the last bits. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
All right. Di?
My name's Diana. My channel is Bookish Di. I meant to do more videos this month, and then my dossier revisions came in, and I have not, but my dossier revisions have been I've completed that, so it is out of my hands. So we'll find out in 6 months if I get a job, if I keep my job, or if I have to move in with my grandparents.
6 months?
Yeah, so academia is great. Never do it. So
That's such a great explanation. Like, why is this crazy? Academia.
so the reason why it's such a long turnaround. So I turned in my initial dossier at the end of August, which is why I didn't do Worldcon, because I'd be a bundle of hate and stress. It then goes to our promotion and tenure committee. So because there are 3 folks going up for tenure in my department this year, it's split up. So I have like a smaller group than what might normally be the case. So they look over my dossier and give initial feedback on how to strengthen it. So it might be like, hey, your verb tenses make no sense, which is fair. I get confused with lead and led a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is like my undoing every single time. And then I get it back. So I got it back on the 13th or on the 12th. And then there's a meeting with people, with like your supervisor, the head of the P&T committee, the people someone who is on the committee reviewing your dossier, and they talk you through the feedback. And I was very lucky in that the feedback that I got was very helpful, like constructive feedback. It's not like, this is terrible, you'll never get tenure. It was like, okay, so here are some places where you did well, but here are some places where like you need to beef it up, and here's some suggestions on how to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a week turnaround, and I had a compressed timeline because there was a big library event on Monday, and then there was other stuff on Tuesday. Anyway, so I turned it in yesterday, and then it goes to external reviewers. So these are people who are at other institutions who have the same rank that I'm hoping to obtain. So I would be going to an assistant professor from an associate professor. And because not all libraries have tenure, I have to identify librarians who have tenure. So there's that. And then they have like 2 months to look at it. And then it comes back to the library. And in November through December, the P&T letter committee will review everything and write a letter either recommending me or not recommending me for tenure. Then it goes to the dean of libraries, who will review everything and either recommend me or not recommend me. And then it goes to the provost's office, who will look at everything, and they decide, do I get tenure? And if I get tenure, great. I get a pay bump. I get hired indefinitely. So unless something bad happens, I won't lose my job. But if I don't get tenure,
is good. Like,
having tenure is good. Me not getting tenure means I will lose my job and move in with my grandparents.
So everybody keep their fingers and toes crossed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure it's going to be fine. I don't know the particulars, but I feel like it's going to be
fine. I've talked to people in other units, and the library is, I would say, pretty unique in how much support they give people who are going through the tenure process.
Is it very different between like librarians and like people who are teaching courses all the time?
So we go through the same process and we submit the same type of dossier. I would say the main difference is that so the way my university has academic faculty sorted, so it's not just like professors, so like tenure and tenure track professors, but it also includes instructors. Instructors. So my university, like, knock on wood, at this point doesn't have adjunct faculty, which I think is pretty unique. But we have instructors whose primary focus is teaching and not research. And so they are paid less than professors. Like, it's seen as like less prestigious, even though I think teaching is much harder. And then you also have faculty research assistants and associates. So these are people who primarily work in labs or who like do some research. So for example, the library has some faculty research assistants, and we converted some classified staff, so those would be like members who are in our library techs who are in our classified union, and to FRAs because they don't have the same ceiling as classified staff, so we could actually pay them more. Anyway, sorry, I like didn't mean to go off on like all of that, but yeah, so the library is unique in that everyone who's considered academic faculty participates in the P&T process. Because the idea is like, even if you're like a new faculty member who just started, or you're an FRA, like the hope is you'll be going up for promotion or tenure. And so we want to give people an idea of what they'll be going through.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very stressful.
It is. It is incredibly stressful.
I mean, with most jobs, like if you're switching a job or even like going from like a contract to a full-time position or something, it doesn't take like 6 months to find out if you're gonna still have a job.
Yeah. Well, so the idea is with your dossier is you need to show impact, like your primary assignment. So for me, it's teaching, research, service, like all of it is supposed to demonstrate that you've had an impact. And I technically had an extra year, so it's typically 5 years from when you're hired to when you go up for tenure. But because of COVID, my university gave everyone like a bonus year, essentially.
That's good.
And then like if, for example, you go on parental leave, like if you had a kid, you can potentially get an extra year. So one of my colleagues got, I think, a couple of extra years at least one extra year because she had a kid when she was pre-tenure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Anyway, so that has been a major source of like stress and anxiety the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I bet.
Don't do academia, folks. It's not worth it.
I have been out of school and the academic world for 11 years now, and I don't miss being a student. I don't miss being kind of in that world at all. So
yeah, it's interesting because like I actually do really like, talking with students, talking with faculty members and helping them. But like my university is a big sports university. And so like there's some stuff that happens where it's like good for the sports, but not good for everyone else. And then, And then there's a disconnect between, I mean, I'm sure this is the case everywhere, between like senior administration and the reality for the people who like actually keep the university running.
Yes, for sure.
Like, so we're in contract negotiations right now, and our union brought forth a package that would have a base salary increase because inflation has been ridiculous, and then would lock in guaranteed raises for the life of the contract. Administration came back and it's like, you know what? We really don't want people getting paid. We're just going to give everyone a 1.8% increase for the first year of the contract and then no guaranteed raises for the rest of the contract. Like, it wasn't even like there will be this pool for merit increases. It was just like, oh, well, if there's money available, we'll give raises. And then when the president...
There will never be money available.
Well, and then when the president was asked, she's like, oh, well, it's the state's fault. And it's like, ma'am, you just got a 6% salary increase. Like, please do not cry poverty to me.
No. Oh my God. No.
Yeah. And then the woman the lead negotiator, like, she is a prime example of why people do not like lawyers. And I am saying this as the child of two attorneys. Like, she is a good example of why people hate lawyers.
I will say I've not had any reason in my life to encounter a lot of lawyers, but the ones I've had some contact with have actually been very nice people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, contract bargaining has been a time. I have been joking, not joking, of creating rules for a drinking game based on the shit they've been saying.
How much alcohol do you have?
Well, this would not be.
I assume this is an alcoholic drinking game.
No, because this is happening while I'm at work, so it'd be non-alcoholic. But I've been saying, based on the rules, I'd have to be very specific because you would die of water poisoning.
Oh my god. Yes. Yes, KJ, that is very true.
Yeah.
In all jobs. I don't have this kind of situation in my job necessarily, but yeah, and meetings. Yeah. Way too many meetings. Nothing.
Anyway, sorry for the tangent about
Yeah. Welcome to the Stitch and Bitch. We usually, actually bitch about SFF industry stuff and talk about books, and this month it's just stress and jobs. That does actually describe my month pretty well. This has been chaos. So should we move on with our usual agenda and talk about what we've been reading?
Yeah, let's talk about books.
All right. Who wants to go first? I think we all have things we want to talk about today, so should we eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
Not maybe because I am actually deeply focused on what I'm trying to do with little flowers at the moment.
Rachel, do you want to go first? Because I just talked a whole lot.
Sure. I'll try to remember what I was gonna say. I haven't been reading as much as I used to, but I've still been very much in a reading mood, which is great. So some things that I have read, I think. So I read Witch Hat Atelier Volume 12, and Rhea talked about this in last month's Stitch and Bitch. They were like, oh, it's really, really good. And they were right. Holy crap, this volume. You don't usually expect to be Volume 12 and be 5 stars on a manga volume, but wow, I need Volume 13 very badly. And I decided I'm going to start buying the entire series now, so that I think it's time to start reread it from the beginning while I'm waiting for the next volume to come out. But yeah, if anybody else is this far into Witch Hat Atelier, it is so different from the first couple of volumes now. It's not just the sweet, cutesy little girls becoming witches sort of thing. People are doing bad things. I also finally finished Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the third and final book in, oh my god, what is this series called?
The Between Earth and Sky.
Between Earth and Sky. I can never remember that for whatever reason. This was also something that I was reading with Rhea, and our buddy Redescended petered out right before we went to Worldcon, because this series has just really slowly fallen into a ditch. It's not all bad, but Black Sun was fantastic. The second book, which for the life of me I can't remember the name of either, total middle book syndrome, even though it was good. If you really enjoyed the characters and you're following along just for them, the middle book was good. And then Mirrored Heavens, it's over 500 pages of mostly characters still waffling on in their own disconnected storylines, and then the last 50 pages are all the action and the stuff and people finally meeting and things happening. And I was like, why wasn't the entire book like this? It just had some serious pacing problems. And it's frustrating when you're in the middle of a book and you're like, oh, this major character should have just died in this chapter, and that would have made this whole thing more interesting. And then they just have plot armor, and it's really, really frustrating. Anyway, that being said, I actually kind of liked the ending, mainly because the couple in this that I wanted them to have some sort of happily ever after, their lives were not completely ruined. So it was worth it to get to the end, but I had to really force myself to finish this, which is sad given how great the series started off as. I'm not saying don't read it though. For anybody who's like interested in the series, the thing I love about it, like all the way through, is just that it is like Mesoamerican, Central American based fantasy, like secondary world, but it's got that feel. It builds on those cultural influences, I think. And I have been looking for that in fantasy for ages. And I think that in the world building in this, it really succeeds in like setting the stage and using the influences of that part of the world and everything. I just think it's really cool. And then with my success in reading that, I finally read another big chunky book. I finished Sea Sparrow by Kristen Kishore.
Please tell me you liked it. Please tell me you liked it.
I'm guessing both of you guys have read this since you just perked up. I loved this.
Okay, good. This. That is a relief.
It was really different in just the way it was told. I felt like I was reading Hava's journal, except it's not actually a journal, but I was surprised. I never remembered much about Hava. I remembered when she kind of appeared in Winterkeep, and that was about it. And I was like, do I really want to be in this person's head for like 600 pages? Yeah. Yes, I did. But Kristen Kishore just has that way of writing somebody's like really difficult emotional growing up, dealing with trauma experiences, and it's realistic. And yes, this book just hit all the right buttons, and I am sad that there another book coming out?
Not as far as we're aware.
I mean, these two came out of nowhere, so like there's always a possibility, and it's not like she's written like an end to the series, but I don't think she's announced anymore at this point.
Where this ends with both like Hava's storyline and then kind of where Bitter Blue is at the end of this, I'm like, this could once again be kind of a natural end to these character storylines, but I don't know. She kind of opened up the whole world for like other characters, other storylines in the new part of the world that the last two books have been about. So we'll see. I did notice that she has another book out this year, though.
Yeah.
Adorned to the Darkness or something like that.
Yeah, it's more. It's a contemporary. Contemporary in that it's set in like 2016.
Mm-hmm. Did anybody else read Jane Unlimited?
No, but I have it.
Yeah, I have not.
I have it. I've not read it.
It's really different. Like, I don't know if she's written anything other than that and the new book that's not in the Graceling series, really.
I don't think so.
And reading her work in like a more modern setting is so strange to me when it's not like secondary world fantasy. I had issues with Jane Unlimited. At the same time, there were things about it that really stuck with me years later. Like the experience of like listening to that book on audiobook and trying to figure out what was going on. It was weird and not entirely successful with how weird it was, but I liked it. I don't know. Seeing as like I just really want to read something else by her after reading Sea Sparrow, I might have to just pick up her contemporary novel and see if I like it. But and then the other thing that I finished I want to talk about, I finally finished the Yokohama Kairashikiku series. This is by Hitoshi Ashinano, and there are 5 of these deluxe volumes. So I finally got the 5th volume, and I also decided I needed to like buy this entire series. I don't buy a lot of manga just because they're so expensive and I don't reread them that much, but I loved this. I really, really love this series. I know there's other series that it's kind of like this, but it's quiet and contemplative, and it's almost like dystopic science fiction because it's set at a time when like climate change is overtaking the world. The whole world is kind of sinking into the ocean. Everything's being reclaimed by the water. And the people in the story in like very, very rural Japan are accepting of it. They're kind of watching the end of the world, and it's very quiet and peaceful. And yeah, so I really enjoy the series. The main character is a robot. Actually, both of these characters are robots, which also adds to the whole like this is sort of the end of the world, the end of humanity, and it's a very humane story, very much about people being people. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. Ramsey, were you the one who recommended this to me? I know somebody recommended it to me back when I was making booktube videos, and I was like, well, that seems kind of strange, and I've absolutely loved it. So yeah, kind of like Connie Willis, a little bit. So and then really quickly, what I'm reading right now, I'm back at Full Metal Alchemist. So I'm reading the, what volumes is in this? Volumes 4, 5, and 6. I think my library has the entire series in these bind up volumes, so I should get through them pretty quickly. I'm reading a little novella, Just Add Water by John Dodd. I got 2 of these from this is the Luna Press novella series, and I got 2 that appealed to me. I think a lot of them are fantasy, and I got the science fiction ones. This is one of those artificial intelligence on a like generation ship or something goes crazy, and people wake up and are like, why are we bombing the planet that we came to settle on? And I also started Jump Knots by Hao Jingfang, which is her latest novel to be translated into English. And I think it's actually the beginning of a series. So we'll see if the rest of it is also translated. But I haven't gotten very far into this, but it's kind of like, oh, hey, we expect aliens to show up in our solar system at any point. So what are they going to do about that? I'm kind of irritated because the main male character is one of those guys. He's like really interested in one of the female characters. He's like, you're so pretty and mysterious and hard to get, and I'm going to keep asking you to like be involved with me. And she's like, but no. And he won't stop. I'm like, why was Hao Jingfang writing a guy like this? Anyway, that is it for me. Oh, I also read Ocean's Gorori by Elaine Cho.
How was that?
I feel like it's
I haven't read it,
now.
but it's on my like list of books to check out now that I like my brain is up to reading again.
I really wonder if I should not have listened to it on audiobook. I could not for the life of me figure out what the story wanted to be, but it had a relatively interesting ending. It also has a very abrupt ending. It's not a standalone. It's the first part of a duology. And I gather from a lot of the reviews on like Storygraph and stuff that people did not know that. They were like, why the hell does this book just stop with no resolution? Because there's a second book coming.
That's good to know.
But there's so much just setup. It's like I got halfway through and I was like, I don't think the plot has even started yet. Does this want to be a romance, like a slow burn romance? Is it one of those slightly wacky adventures in space found family type things? Is it a revenge story? I don't know. And then it just takes this complete left turn into like terrible, tragic murder mystery stuff. And I was like, what is going on? But yeah, I'll probably read the second book. Yes, Ramsey, burnout is real. And when you've been online for like 8 years and doing the same thing, yeah. Someday you just wake up and you're like, I think I want to do something else with my time. And that's it for me. So I talked for a very long time. One of you guys go next.
I can go next. Hold on. I'm very sorry, Luke. I should have moved stuff earlier, but yeah. So I actually have read a decent, as I drop books, a decent amount. Hold on. A decent amount since we last talked. So I read a couple of nonfiction books. My upstairs neighbor's dog does not appreciate people walking in the street at all. Anyway, so I read Polio: An American Story by Paul Oshinsky. So it's about the history of the polio vaccine. So I was hoping it would get into more of what polio is and how the virus developed, because given the news that's coming out about the polio outbreak in Gaza, I was interested in learning more about it. And so it goes into the story of the vaccine and its development, and how there were kind of two types of polio vaccines developed. So the killed virus vaccine, which is the Salk vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
And then the live virus vaccine, which is what a lot of the vaccination efforts are now, because those are very easy to distribute. You just kind of drop oral vaccine on people's tongues. So it was interesting for me, particularly because a lot of the things that happened with the development of the vaccine, so small dollar fundraising, celebrity endorsements, freaking out over vaccines, ethics, so much of that, and government funding of research, so much of that kind of got its start with the polio vaccine, and the March of the Dimes and all of that. So it was very interesting. And this book was published in, I think, 2000. Yeah, it's published in 2005. So the ending is actually unintentionally incredibly depressing, because it's the WHO is trying to get polio eradicated by 2008, and it's almost 20 years later, and it's
that's depressing.
Yeah, so I do think it's more academic, so it's an academic press book, but I think it's still pretty accessible for lay readers. And I thought it was really interesting, particularly looking at some of the things that were, I don't want to say pioneered, but really blew up in terms of fundraising, celebrity endorsements, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I read that, and then the other nonfiction book I read was The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs by Steve Buscemi, which I really enjoyed. I listened to the audiobook because I was doing some driving, and I was I kind of just want to listen to something, and I really like dinosaurs, why not? And I thought it was a good pop science book. It's informative.
I super enjoy it. I listened to it on audiobook too, and I really loved it.
Yeah. So I really liked that one. And then for actual fiction, so I finally read Squire, and I really liked it. It's a graphic novel by Sarah Afagay and Nadia Shamus, and it's set in a Arab-inspired world, late Ottoman Empire, and it's about a girl who joins the occupying army to gain full citizenship, and it's kind of her learning the truth behind what's going on and coming into herself. So I really liked it. I think my one little critique is some of the different ethnic groups, there wasn't a lot talking about their history or how they're different from each other, but it is a graphic novel, and there's only so much space that you can do. So I think if it was a novel, I'd be a little bit more critical of that, but overall I really enjoyed it. The art itself is really pretty too.
I have had
So,
that favorited on Hoopla for ages and just never really got into it. So I should try that now.
yeah, I
also
really
enjoyed
enjoyed this.
that one. Yeah. Meow.
Yeah.
Meow.
And then I read The Maiden and the Crocodile by Jordan Ufleco, and this is 100% going on my Lodestar ballot. This is set in the same world as Raybearer. The book is like 10 years after the end of Redemptor. So it does one of my favorite things is like what society like after the big like change and what happened, like the big world changing event. And we're following this young woman, Sade, who she's a commoner. She has a learning disability. She's also physically disabled. One of her feet was crushed when she was younger. She's, very much at the margins of society. And so it's a Fueco exploring her world from a different perspective and also looking at, what does it mean to make radical change? Like, is it coming from the top? Is it coming from the bottom? Like, what creates the spark for change, and what does lasting change look like? And like, even when someone is trying to do change coming from like a good place, like what needs to be done to make sure that the changes they're trying to make actually are effective. So again, really liked this, and I will be incredibly sad if this is not on the Lodestar.
Can I ask a question about it?
Yeah.
Because I DNF'd Raybearer when I tried to read it for, I think, the Lodestar. It was nominated for the Lodestar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, from what I've heard, sounds much more like my type of thing, but I haven't read Raybearer. Will I still enjoy this?
I think you should read Raybearer and Redemptor. I think so. There was someone in a Discord I'm in who read this and hadn't read the duology and was fine. But I think that it sets up the crocodile character in Redemptor, and I think knowing where the world is coming from really helps with some of the context.
Yeah, I just don't know how much my DNF of Raybearer was just like, it wasn't the type of book I was looking for at the time, and how much of it was the audiobook narration, because I was trying to do it on audiobook. Because that was the quickest way I could get it. I was trying to read it for the Lodestar, and it wasn't in the voter packet. So like, I don't know if I'd have a different experience with it if I tried it again in print. It just didn't really feel like my type of YA. But
yeah, see, I really liked Raybearer because it took a lot of tropes, in my opinion, that we see a lot in YA and either like interrogated them or did something different with them that I thought was really interesting.
No, I can totally see that. It just wasn't working for me the way I was reading it and when I was reading it. And I think if you thought this could be read on its own, I'd try to read it in time to nominate for the Lodestar. But otherwise, I don't know if I would go back and try Raybearer again unless it actually made the short list, Yeah. I'm just deciding what to get from the library. But everything I've heard about that, the new one, sounds like it's very good. And I'm very intrigued.
And then the other thing I finished is Where Peace is Lost by Valerie Valdez. This is a standalone science fiction book. And again, it's set in the aftermath of a war. The main character, Kel, is a former member of this militant order that she's essentially been in exile 5 years. So I think like Obi-Wan in exile after Revenge of the Sith, and something happens. War Machine is activated, so she has to guide some people in who say they can fix it, and a lot of the story is her trying to essentially like coming out of her exile and kind of thinking through what happened in the past and her present and what does it mean to, you know, do good. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid science fiction book. Right now it's a standalone, but if she wants to build off of this world, I wouldn't be upset.
I need to get around to that one. I didn't realize that it was a standalone, which is very appealing right now.
Oh, bother.
Yeah, so and then I'm also in the middle of The Mirror season by Anne-Marie McLemore, and it's a tough read just because what it's dealing with, it's dealing with the aftermath of sexual assault.
Yeah.
So it's very much there, like very beautiful writing, very kind of like introspective, but it's also again dealing with the aftermath of sexual assault. So it is more, it's darker in that way, and so it's one that I've just been kind of reading slowly because of that. And that's what I've been reading.
All right. Kelsey.
Okay. Well, when we last spoke, let's see, I think I was in the midst of Rake's Fall, which I did finish. It took me a long time to finish.
I just got that from Libby this morning, and I'm tell me what you thought, because I'm facing it with some trepidation now.
There were some individual parts of it that I really liked that were really, really intriguing. I am still confused about the book as a whole, if that makes sense.
Is this the one that you said it was almost like individual stories brought together into a novel, or
kind
something?
of? Some of the chapters are previously published short stories.
Okay.
And not all of them would stand on their own, but you get, see, I was describing it as like primarily a multiverse novel at the point where we were talking about it last, and then I feel like either partway through it gave up being a multiverse novel and like stuck with one alternate timeline, or I was missing something. But it's like epic in terms of like deep past to distant future type of thing. And we're supposedly following at least two, possibly as many as 5, plus possibly a demon or several, reincarnating throughout history and different universes. So it's just not always clear which person is which.
That sounds like something I need to read with my eyeballs for sure.
Yeah, I would recommend reading it with eyeballs.
Okay.
Some of the writing is really, really like deliciously good, though. It was just a smidge confusing for me. More than a smidge. Like there is a possibility that it is the weirdest book I've ever read.
Okay.
Moving on. I read An Accident of Stars by Foz Meadows, which is the first in their like portal fantasy duology. That's from what year? Let me figure that out on Goodreads.
A 2010s book, I think.
2016. Yeah. Definitely enjoyed it. Definitely will be reading the sequel. It's one of those books that has a teenage protagonist, but is definitely an adult book because it becomes very much like an ensemble-driven story, where our main protagonist, Saffron, is a girl from our world who follows an older woman who is a world walker who goes between worlds into this fantasy world. And gets drawn into the political upheaval that's happening there. And I think like one of the things I most liked about Strange and Stubborn Endurance and its sequel was the sort of like fantasy world building experience of culture shock, and that's very much happening in this too. Like I can tell the description of, you know, a person figuring out this totally different fantasy culture feels very similar to me, even though it's kind of a different subgenre. And so we've got these two different countries that we're visiting in this book that have very different cultures, religions, social structures. Both societies are pretty queer normative, though, but with all sorts of different social expectations. And I really enjoyed it. There was definitely like a gut punch of an ending that I wasn't expecting that had me saying I need the second book immediately. So I'm going to be trying to get that from the library as soon as possible. And then I finally read The Cloud Roads. Woohoo.
The what?
The Cloud Roads.
Martha Wells fantasy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So another one where I will absolutely be reading the second book as soon as possible. It was just very consumable fantasy for me. Like the plot is nothing revelatory in that book, but the world building is just super cool. It's like, yeah, I want to see that floating city.
The characters and their relationships.
I feel like I'm not deeply invested in the characters yet because it's been only one book and it's a relatively short book, but I feel like as I get to know these people better, I'm going to get deeply, deeply invested. Doggo! Are those doggo ears?
Yeah.
I see the ears of a doggo.
Yeah.
She's looking at me very alertly because the side door is open and she's like, oh, there's something out there. I want to be outside. Let me outside. So now she's going to lay on the floor down there and just stare at me for the rest of the live show.
So earlier, Sunshine was trying to eat my embroidery thread. Now she is asleep on top of her cat tree, and I'm going to see how fast she will wake up if I start shaking a little churu around. Because this is the test of how easily Oh, she's awake. How easily summonable she is.
Yeah, Luke was cuddling for a while, but it's sunny outside, so he's gone to be in the sun.
Yeah. Well, here she is. Hold on. Here she is.
Oh, you can't let another cat steal your spotlight, Luke. Yeah.
Forgive
don't
my
know where-
pajama pants.
Come on. And here he is once again.
Luke. Yes, this is
I don't know
fun.
where Leia is.
This is our cat intermission.
Yeah, I sort of unilaterally decided it was time for catermission.
Ava, you're back. You're back. Wanna come here?
Ava!
Luke's like, I'm just getting struggles and she's getting true. What's up with that?
Aww.
You want to come up here? Or you just gonna stare at me like a little creep, huh? Huh?
Aye.
Yeah. What are you doing, Ava?
You're the
Hi,
girl.
pretty boy.
You are the girl.
Oh my god.
Hi, pretty boy.
And she's back. Are we playing? Come here. I don't know what she's doing now.
So I'm not actually done talking about what I've read. Let's see. What did I read after that? Oh, I read A Sorceress Comes to Call.
Oh, yeah.
You also read that, right?
Yeah, last month.
I have not read it yet.
Where I found out that the super creepy demonic horse thing was part of the original Goose Girl story.
Yes.
And I was like, what? I never heard that before.
Yeah. Except in the original fairy tale, it's a benevolent, creepy, decapitated talking horse.
That's almost worse.
It is. It's bizarre. Yeah, as a retelling, it's very, very loose. Like practically no elements of the fairy tale except magic horse named Falada show up until like the final third of the book.
And there are geese.
There are in fact geese. They don't actually show up until like the final third of the book.
I admit I was expecting more goose content as soon as we heard about the breeding of the
I was
geese.
also expecting more goose content. Yeah. Like the elements of the fairy tale that are in the book, as far as I can tell. Sorry, you can't even see my face because I'm focusing on Cat. You're very good. It's all gone. There's a protagonist with a magical mother and she has a magical talking horse that gets decapitated. Like that's from the fairy tale. There is kind of, if you squint at it sideways, a bride swap, but it's not the same sort of bride swap that happens in the fairy tale. Like the main point of the fairy tale is that the princess's maid takes her place on the way to the wedding. And so the princess then has to be the goose girl until the king discovers the deception. And the villainess is punished for taking the princess's place. And to hear like the bride swap, such as it is the fact that like Cordelia gets engaged to the character who's actually Hester's love interest.
And it was always like the fake engagement thing. So it was
so it's not the same sort of plot point at all, but like if you squint at it sideways, that element of the fairy tale is maybe there. There are geese. They exist. Check.
They don't do as much as I thought they were going to.
They don't do anything in the fairy tale either, though. They're just sort of there.
But when we found out that Hester was like breeding geese on the side, and they're supposed to be really good about like, you know, sort of defensive against bad things, I was like, wait a minute. There's got to be a scene where Hester just chucks a goose at the bad lady, and we did not get the chucking a goose scene. So
I have to take away the churu tube so that Sunshine stops trying to eat it. I will be right back. There is a scene in which Cordelia summons a magical wind. The context has nothing whatsoever to do with the fairy tale. And like, it's one of those stories that like, I hesitate to call it a retelling because the plot structure isn't there. It's doing other things with like the symbols of the fairy tale as opposed to actually retelling the plot. So it was less Goose Girl than I thought it was, but it finally made sense in the final third when we're like, okay, now we are going to the house of the betrothed. That's where the original fairy tale starts, right? So I think I might have liked it a little bit more if I hadn't actively been looking for the Goose Girl fairy tale in it. I still really enjoyed. I think it's an excellent fall vibes book. Like that is an autumnal read that is just the right amount of like spooky without being too spooky. Perfect. It feels to me like it's like it's set in a Fantasy of Manners world that has this much more frightening story descend upon it that aren't prepared for, because they're all living in a Fantasy of Manners world in which a sorceress does not come to call and start ensorceling people, right? And so they have to figure out how to deal with this threat that is like outside the scope of the normal type of story that would take place in this sort of world. I enjoyed that about it a lot. It struck me as probably being alternate history 19th century America as opposed to a secondary fantasy world. Did you feel that way too? Because like Christianity is mentioned and a couple other things. Like there was like one other real world reference where I was like, ding, ding, ding.
I don't think I noticed that at all.
But when I am enough a fan of world building that I wanted to know more about that. Like, tell me more about this is how, you know, church weddings work in your version of reality. Like, but Ursula Vernon doesn't really do world building like that, you know? I just thought it was interesting that it seemed to me like an alternate history as opposed to secondary world. And then, what am I reading right now? I am so close to being finished with To Shape a Dragon's Breath. I am this far from the end. I'm probably going to finish this today. Really enjoying this. Speaking of alternate histories, I don't think I had seen it properly described what type of alternate history this is. It is mildly steampunk. I was not expecting that. It is the sort of thing where if you just read it without looking at the map, you might think it was just like heavily based on real world countries. But you know, everything has a different name except the map looks like this, right? So it is an alternate history. But like Europe is different in some ways. Like there's no Christianity in this. All of the European colonizers worship different like types of pagan gods. And like in North Marksland, which is North America, like the North and the South are two different countries. The South was like colonized by the country that's fake Spain, and like the North is a monarchy. And so if you were just reading the book, you wouldn't necessarily understand that this is alternate history, but the map tells you that it is.
I didn't get far enough into it before I lost my hold at the library. I just assumed it was straight up historical fantasy, just, you know, a little bit of a twist in the timeline or something. So that actually makes it more interesting to me that it
I mean, the alternate history is not the focus of this book at all, but clearly there's been a lot of thought that went into it. The magic system with the dragon breath that she's learning is basically chemistry. But all of the elements have different names, and like what's being done with the chemistry and the dragons is magic. It's not like just science, but like it's using magic to do chemistry. I'm finding it very intriguing. And it's, you know, and it's not bogged down by any of the world building. This is still very fast-paced, very character-driven. But I'm finding all of that background world building very intriguing. And then after I finish this, I have only just like barely started Long Live Evil. I have no strong opinions about this yet, but I'm still very optimistic.
I have not heard of that one.
The new Sarah Reese Brennan.
It's adult. It's her adult.
Okay, I haven't heard that name in a while.
Adult fantasy debut. Super excited for that. And that's the end of what I've been reading.
All right.
Meow.
I heard that pathetic little meow.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have Luke in the background grooming.
I saw that. He's got that leg up.
Giving him that old razzle dazzle.
Got dust on your whiskers. There we go.
Well, I don't have anything really to share for media that I've been enjoying. I rewatched Inside Man, which was like a favorite movie of mine when it came out. Not SFF though. And that's pretty much it. So you guys take it away.
Yeah, so I did see Ramsey mention Acolyte, and I am still incredibly mad that Disney canceled that show because it was very good, and I thought that it was a good season of TV, but it also did the thing that I like, where it's like, yes, it told like a complete story, but it left seeds open for more, and I'm really mad that we're not dealing with that because Disney's coward. And Manny Jacinto and Amanda Stenberg deserve better. Anyway, I'm really upset about the cancellation. And Dave Filoni, turn your location on. I just want to talk. So I haven't really been watching a whole lot. I did watch the first 2 episodes of Agatha all along, and it was fun. I haven't really been watching a lot of MCU stuff lately. I got pretty burned out on it, and the quality, aside from like a few things recently, has just not been super great. But people I trust were saying that it was fun. It's by the same people who did WandaVision, which is one of the better MCU shows because it was an actual television show, not a movie split into 8 parts, which is like my least favorite thing in the universe. And so, yeah, the first 2 episodes are fun. Catherine Hahn is chewing a lot of scenery. She's having the time of her life. Aubrey Plaza, incredibly hot. And Joe Locke, bless his heart, cannot keep up an American accent.
I don't know who that is.
So he's Irish Manx, and he is one of the leads in Heartstopper, like the British Netflix show based on the Alice Osman.
Oh my
comic.
God! I should know who he is.
He's the dark-haired one.
Oh my God! How did I not know his name?
Anyway, so he's in it. Everyone is speculating that his character is one of Wanda's kids, but that right now it's like mystery box. He's just referred to as teen. And like his character is very cute, but also like he cannot keep up an American accent. Like there are just certain, like it feels like there's a lot of places where it starts breaking through and it's like, oh, I can tell you're trying, but also hi Leia. But yeah, so I don't know if it will like keep up the quality, but right now it's like very fun. I'm enjoying it. And then in terms of other things, so in terms of stuff I've been watching, I did start rewatching The West Wing because it's the 25th anniversary, and so I was seeing a lot of people like posting gifs and stuff. I'm like, you know what? It has been a long time since I've actually rewatched this show, and like I know there are certain plots that have aged really badly, like the whole Sam and the call girl stuff. But it's still like I'm in early season 2, and I forgot how much I actually really love the characters. It also led to the realization that as much as I would love to be CJ Craig, who is funny and witty and collected, and for the most part, like she gets frazzled, but she like keeps it together. I am unfortunately Josh Lyman. Because I am petty, I keep grudges, and I want to fight even when I probably shouldn't.
That like things not aging the way you would expect them to. Thing reminds me of Leverage a little bit because I'm on season 3 with the parents watching it now, and there are just some things that characters do where I'm like, oh my God, that was like early 2000s, and we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Leia has joined us.
Like whenever a character's call like a waitress sweetheart, I'm like, oh, shut your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. I also finished my Dragon Age replay before Dragon Age the Veilguard comes out, and I am really excited. They've been showing off more stuff. So there was a event earlier this month where they invited like journalists and content creators out to San Francisco to play part of the game, and the people who attended have been releasing, the things that they're allowed to release. And they showed off the character creator, and it is fantastic. It is so good. Like the hair options, oh my God. So BioWare, the company that makes Dragon Age, like is infamous for having shitty hair options. Like I don't play on PC, so I can't mod. But everyone who plays on PC, like one of the first things they do is like add good hair mods. So it's not just like 6 shades of bald. and like a sad bun and a sad ponytail. And the hair options are fantastic. They have a lot of customability in terms of like what your face structure is. The right-wing grifters are big mad about the fact that you can add top surgery scars.
Oh.
Which I think is really cool. Like, I think
I've never
that's
heard of
like,
that name before.
which I think is fantastic. But like, the grifters are like, Dragon Age woke, and it's like, Dragon Age has always been woke. Like,
Just make
like
your
come
own character and play the game and shut up. Like,
I know. Anyway, like they're big mad about it. But I'm very excited, and
Is that where all the jokes I've been seeing about dragons and top surgery are coming from?
Yes.
You have provided context.
Yeah, that is where they're coming from. Anyway, my dad is very lucky. I love him a lot because he and his partner are coming up to, see me and also see sports the weekend that Dragon Age Veilguard comes out. And I completely forgot about this. Cause like, I knew it was like dad was coming up, but then like, it was kind of, in the future conceptual. And then, Veilguard announced its release date on Halloween. I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm going to take a 5-day weekend. It's going to be great. And then I was looking at the calendar, I'm like, wait a minute. Dad's coming up that weekend. So I'm still going to have like Thursday and Monday to play the game, but I'm heading up to Portland on Friday to go see him and, see the Portland Thorns, eat good food, drink good beer. But yeah. Funny enough, this is the second time this has happened, or a video game that I am like incredibly excited about and was like booking time off to play, where it's like, oh shit, he's coming up this weekend. Because it also happened with Horizon Forbidden West when that came out a few years ago. He was coming up for a basketball game.
he just knows.
It's weird. Like, again, it's like because he will book it, and then like a couple months later they'll announce when the video game is dropping. Hi, Leia. Are we paying too much attention
like
to
how
Luke?
I kept accidentally ending up in the same city as Taylor Swift several times. It just sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Really funny. Like, I didn't know anything about like where Taylor Swift is going to be when we were coming back from Scotland, but when Paul and I were coming back from Heathrow, there were Swifties on our plane. We were like, oh, we know where they were.
London was like the third or potentially the fourth city I'd accidentally ended up in at the same time as Taylor Swift, completely on accident, not even including my own. It's become a running joke amongst my friends and family.
You should just like go see her, and maybe that will stop happening.
Maybe.
See, you'll actually try to go see Taylor Swift.
Then I won't be able
to. When you can't be in the same city.
Oh, so speaking of concerts, so a non-media thing I did, but was also fantastic. I saw Hozier in concert 2 weekends ago, and he was phenomenal. Like,
who?
Hozier.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good live. Like, it was just a fantastic concert.
I do not follow him, but I know he's one of those musicians that like he sounds the same live as he does like his recordings, which I like.
Yeah, like he does, like his performances were really good. Like he just has a lot of onstage charisma, and his songs are fantastic. So yeah, I would recommend seeing him live. I had a really good time. I went with some friends that I made through Marinessa's Discord server. Hi, kitty cat. So yeah, that's my media.
Yeah. Do you have any media talk, Kelsey?
Yeah, sure. Not much. I did go see Inside Out 2 in theaters before it left theaters. It was fine. I felt underwhelmed by it, in part just because I loved the first one so much. And so, like, expectations were very, very high. And it's not like... It's very similar to the first movie in a lot of ways. So you would think I would have loved it too, but it just sort of felt like more of the same, and it never like hit me at any point really, which, oh well. It's fine. It's totally fine.
That's sort of the risk I think you run with a lot of sequels, is people love the first one so much, like, well, we'll just make more of the same thing, and
more
it's like,
of the same. And like, if you want it to hit people the same as the first one did, it really has to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Disney and sequels, a Disney animated movie that it genuinely surprises me has not gotten a sequel announcement, with all of the sequels they've announced they're supposedly making, is Big Hero 6, which I watched for only the second time on the plane home
They
from...
did a TV show.
My understanding was that the show was not... It was just like little episodes of Baymax doing things. It wasn't like...
I think they did a full... Let me double check.
Show.
I don't know if it like got the amount of buzz the Tangled TV show did, though.
I thought it just got like the cute little Baymax spinoff.
Now there was an animated series. It ran... It had 56 episodes, ran for 3 seasons.
Oh, when was this?
This was from 2017 to 2021.
Okay.
And it looks like they got almost everyone back. They recast Wasabi as Carrie Payton. And then they recast Fred because of TJ Miller's legal issues and also him being a jackass.
Was the show...
Andrew Scott was in here? Andrew Scott was a supervillain.
Good? Did people like it? Or was it bad and that's why it didn't get buzz?
I don't know. I think... So the people I follow were mostly talking about the Tangled series.
Yeah, I watched some of the Tangled series. I didn't watch all... I didn't watch very much of it, but I watched some of it. Anyways, I didn't like Big Hero 6 very much when I first saw it. I think I liked it a little bit more this time, watching it on an airplane, which is, not the best way to watch any movie. But it was a little better than I remembered it being. Still not anywhere close to being a favorite, but cute. Those are, I think, the only 2 media things I've seen that I can talk about. I'm probably forgetting something, but that's what I had. That's what I had in my mental list to discuss on this stream.
Cool. Do we have any other burning topics for this month? I do not. I've been mostly offline and nothing's really come to my attention. And
yeah, I will say that it's probably good you were offline. Twitter was kind of there was like some old school Twitter stuff with the Olivia Newsy. Oh God! So have you guys heard about this?
I have not logged into Twitter in many a month.
You might have also seen it on Blue Sky because it was over. So anyway, she is
I have only logged into Twitter for figure skating.
Okay, so she is a journalist. She is considered an up-and-coming star. I am not a fan of her journalism. But she like worked at the Daily Beast and was with New York Magazine, and she's someone who like published a very flattering piece on Trump recently. She was one of the people pushing the Biden has dementia component, partially because he like didn't recognize her. She like introduced himself and herself at an event. He's like, "Who are you again?" And it could also just be Biden being incredibly petty because she and her fiance had a contract to write a book about the 2020 campaign, but the Biden administration just like straight up doesn't like her. And so they kind of froze her out.
I don't think I blame them for that.
Which I do think is very funny. Anyway, so news broke late Thursday night that she was being put on leave because she was having an affair with Robert Kennedy Jr.
Wait, this is the background for all of those blah, 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 and a Kennedy had an affair thing. It's no news. Like, okay.
Yes.
Wait, isn't he married to some sort of like TV
actor? Yes, he is married to Cheryl Hines, who he cheated on he had an affair with when he was previously married.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and so she was engaged to another political reporter, Ryan Lizza, who works at Politico, who he was hired by after he was fired by the New Yorker for having an affair with someone on staff while he was an editor.
These people just need to keep it in their pants.
Anyway, so he made an announcement saying, like, because of my relationship with my ex-fiance and all this, I will not be covering this part of the news. And it's like, oh, that is certainly a way to announce that you've broken off your engagement. Anyway, the other thing with this...
People lack all sorts of common sense. Also, who the hell would have an affair with RFK Jr. or whatever?
So apparently it was never physical. It was just sexting.
I don't care. He's bizarrely weird. There's something messed up going on in that guy's head. Why would you even metaphorically touch it with a 10-foot pole? Like,
yeah. Yeah, the other component is like you have people being like, oh, but you know, he's so much older and she's so young. And it's like, she's 31. She is a grown-ass adult.
That she's old enough than the professional standards. These people should know better. And the fact that he's just weird.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, PJ, he did say a worm ate part of his brain. Also, there was that bizarre story about
the bear.
Anyway, he's a little, I would say nutty, but he needs professional assistance. And
so I don't know.
Not to be doing like talking about this stuff in a public forum. Like he needs private assistance.
I don't know if anyone here listens to Behind the Bastards, but they recently did a 4-part series on RFK Jr. and it is worth listening to because it does provide context into like how much of an like even before his whole run this year, like how much of an absolute bastard he has been for decades, but also like kind of provide some context as to like his family being deeply fucked up.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, it's worth listening to. What's hilarious to me is the final episode of the RFK Jr. miniseries dropped before the whole bear thing came out.
They're gonna have to do another episode, a special follow-up.
Can I pause for a moment to confess that I've lost the beads that I'm supposed to be sewing onto this? This is what happens when you start a craft project that comes in a little kit, and then you procrastinate parts of it for months and months and months, having opened the kit and everything spread all over your apartment. I have no idea where the little beads are. However, I do own many little beads. So I think I'm going to go get some alternate little beads. But I want to...
Where do the beads go on the bee?
So one goes in the middle of each flower. And then there are little dots on the wings.
Okay.
Where I'm supposed to put little beads. And then it will be done, except the bee doesn't come with a stinger, and I think I wanna give it a little stinger. Is it weird to me that it looks weird without a little stinger? No? Okay, maybe I'll be done after the beads, but I need to go find beads. And please continue discussing any drama.
Yeah.
Ramsey,
I will say this is funny drama compared to the Neil Gaiman situation.
It's nuts. So Blue Sky is getting enough mass volume, like, of people there, and I recognize a lot of people from Twitter. Like, I never followed them, they just popped up on my feed or whatever. And it's starting to get to that, like, people are subtweeting an event, but you can't figure out what the hell they're actually talking about because it's just, yeah.
Yeah, the Kennedy thing is because of the Olivia Newsy RFK Jr. affair, and then the Dragon Age top surgery is because of people the grifters being mad about Dragon Age being woke, even though it's always been woke.
That one definitely did not make it into the subtweeting stuff in my Blue Sky feed. I do know way too much about the Diddy drama, even though I don't follow any of these people. It's just, yeah, anyway.
Does anyone want to hear extremely lukewarm thoughts about the start of the figure skating season?
Sure. I did watch a portion of that last Dune program that you sent us in the chat, and I was like, what the heck is going on?
We're going to get a lot of Dune programs this year because everyone is very taken with that soundtrack.
What? See, that's the thing I noticed. I love the Dune soundtracks. So, like, but if you're going to do Dune, you better be freaking epic. And
to be fair, I have seen a video clip of what that final lift was supposed to look like from when they were in practice. And it was supposed to be epic.
Okay. But the costumes just let it down. I was like, did you watch the recent Dune, or did you just take all of your ideas from that weird, I don't know, like 70s, 80s version with Sting? Like,
such cringe costumes. For context, the only two programs I've shared with these people in our group chat are the cringy sci-fi programs, both in Ice Dance, Guignard and Fabry, the Italians. And this is no disrespect to any of these athletes. This is merely artistic opinions about their material this year. The Italians with their silly robot program.
I think it's cool to have like the sci-fi elements to the performances, but like, you better be very nerdy and on top of it rather than just like
they were doing a version of this program as their exhibition skate last year. Possibly different music, definitely different choreography, same awful costumes. Like, I can't believe they actually are using those costumes. They better be getting new ones.
But robotic.
Like, I was tired of it by the end of last year when it was just their exhibition skate. And this, mind you, this is one of technically the top teams in the entire world. And I'm like, I can't. What they were doing last year when it was an exhibition skate is they had this cringy voiceover where, like, one of them was like rolling the other one out, is like, this is a demonstration of our life like robots. Hello, I am Charlene. Hello, I am Marco. We are robots. I'm like, no. No. They're very good skaters. They deserve better programs. I don't know what they're doing. And then the Dune program, which will not be the only Dune program of the season. Other people have announced that it's going to be their music choice this year. Was Olivia Smart and Tim Beek, who represent Spain, even though neither of them is Spanish for reasons. Her last partner, she's British. Her last partner was Spanish, and he very rudely retired on her after the Olympics. She was not ready to retire, so then she got a German partner, but they represent Spain. Anyways, this is Dune program right now. Early in the season, often costumes change. So I am very hopeful that both of these teams, these are temporary costumes and they'll be getting something better, because right now they are both very cringy. And this was at Nebelhorn Trophy. And I'm not caught up on the Nebelhorn videos, so I haven't seen a bunch of the programs yet. Like, haven't watched anyone's free skate except like some of the ice dance. So I'm not caught up yet. But they had a rough go of it. The twizzles, like, I usually can't tell when there are mistakes on twizzles and ice dance because I've never been a skater and I can't see what's going on with the edges or the levels. Like, I don't have that skill. But like, visibly something off with the twizzles, and then just this horrible, like, I like watching figure skating when everything goes well. And that's why I like ice dance kind of the most, is because usually people don't fall on their butts. Usually people go out and do more or less what they expect to do, and everyone's mad at the scores, but not like unhappy with their performance. But this was just like one of those, oh no, falls. But it's Dune, and they're in these cringy costumes, and I hope they get better. For the record, I have not seen Dune yet, nor have I read the book.
I recommend the movies. I don't know if you would particularly care for the book.
I am sure I would not. I did actually try to read Dune in high school, and I DNF'd it halfway through. I got halfway through.
I already desperately need Dune Part 3, because based on how Dune Part 2 ends with Chani, I'm like, oh, I hope this director decides to just throw some of the actual plot of the books out the window and give us like Zendaya being Chani, destroying this guy who just, yeah.
So if you want an actual highlight of the early figure skating season so far to go watch Amber Glenn. She won Lombardia Trophy. She is one of my favorite American skaters, maybe my favorite American skater. She has a stunning triple axel. She has like everything it would take to like be on the world podium, but she can never actually put two clean programs together when it counts, and like there's clearly psychological stuff going on. She's one of those skaters. She had just like an excellent start to her season at Lombardia Trophy, and her short program, so much fun. I don't know music, so I didn't recognize the music, but I'll bet it's something someone else would recognize. And she managed triple axel in both of her programs, I think. So yeah, go watch Amber Glenn. That's my opinions on the start of the figure skating season so far. Very much not comprehensive. I've only watched like some videos from these two competitions.
I don't follow figure skating, but I do watch the stuff you send. So
see, this is how the beads are supposed to get weight. Can you even see that? Tiny.
I can, yes.
Tiny.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice little finishing touch.
So. Yeah, these beads are not the ones that came with, but they are nearly identical to the ones that came with. And I've had them sitting around for years. So maybe I might just use like a bazillion more of them than the pattern calls for, because I will never use up these beads otherwise.
Why not just bedazzle that?
Yeah, bedazzle my little bee.
Well, I have reached my finished goal of getting the sock done during the live show, which means I think we're getting close to done. This is going to be a shorter one. So do we want to mention anything we are particularly looking forward to? I will start because the other night I realized that the next Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery is coming out in November. I was like, how did I miss the announcement for this? Guilt and Ginatan by Mia P. Manansala is coming out in mid-November, and I'm very excited. I need some good murder mystery in my life.
Yes.
With lots of descriptions of delicious food that I will never be able to eat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then I found out that Sam Wagner, who wrote Unnatural Magic and The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry, has a book coming out later this month called The Village Library Demon Hunting Society. And it is a librarian with a knack for solving murders realizes there is something decidedly supernatural afoot in her little town in this cozy fantasy mystery.
This is what I need in my life. I need somebody to recommend me a really cozy, supernatural or not fantasy murder mystery series that I can just binge. I need this.
Yeah, so this is, I think it's just a standalone, but it's essentially like the protagonist of a cozy mystery series. Essentially, the librarian keeps finding bodies and solving murders, and she's like, okay, but this is weird. This is weird how many murders there are in this tiny town.
I like the self-aware mystery series that are like, the character's like, this is not normal.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then the new Nevo is coming out in October.
That is my
1st.
That is my October pre-order. The City in Glass.
Yeah.
I know I have it on my list. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, The City in Glass is my October pre-order. I have to decide if I'm going to be, this is not upcoming releases related, because that's my only upcoming release for October, I think.
Sorry. Whoa.
Because I'm tired.
Me too.
I have to decide if I'm doing any spooky season reading this year, because I did not do my counter seasonal summer spooky reading because I was like 110% Hugo reading all the time. It was great. I did much more Hugo reading than I thought I was going to be able to get done, but like I didn't read anything for myself all summer. Which is sucks, because summer is the time when like I am in a good enough mood to read like anything. So I don't know if I'm gonna try to do spooky season reading this October. I've been thinking that like maybe something like The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy is like kind of the spookiest I'm gonna manage.
Ooh, I really enjoyed The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. I need to read
had
that
book, but for like sitting on my bedside table for ages.
So I will say, like, it is very much a like you've got mail, shop around the corner.
That's what I'm saying. Why I don't do spooky, but I want to do something with spooky season trappings, you know?
I feel like I read something recently-ish that might fit the bill. I'm going okay, so it's like potentially, so it's dealing with ghosts. The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden.
Oh, how, like, is it dark?
So, I mean, it's dealing with World War I, so
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how much I liked that book. So it's set in like early 1918, and you have two protagonists, Freddie, who's a soldier on the front, and then his sister Laura, who's a nurse who was sent home because she was injured and she survived the Halifax explosion. And so, like, for someone who has family in Nova Scotia, whose great-grandmother felt the Halifax explosion hundreds of miles away in Cape Breton, like, I appreciated that part.
Well, keep that in mind. My B is technically done. I'm done with everything the pattern called for. I might do more to it, but technically, I did finish the B, which was my goal. It's cute. I have absolutely no idea what to do with it because I never wanted to have an embroidered bee. I just wanted to embroider a bee. Anyone
give
want
it to
an embroidered
someone.
bee?
I mean, I just put it in a little hoop frame and hang it on a wall.
I'll figure out what to do with it later. Shall I unbox the next embroidery kit to use up our extra minutes, or do we want to end early?
Let's end early. I need to.
This is the Tony Maria Sears. I've never heard of this. Recipes for Love and Murder. I'll have to look that up later and see. So, speaking of mysteries, there's a new Flavia de Luce novel coming out. It's been years, and I thought that Alan Bradley was done with that series because like it was always going to be like 10 books and then it's done, and it ended. And now there's an 11th book. I'm very excited. I love that series. It's one of my absolute favorite kind of cozy murder mystery series stuff.
Hey, Kit Kat.
Well, I think that is it for us this month. We should be on Rhea's channel in October. We don't know when in October, but hopefully it'll be a more normal live show and our schedules will all work out better for the next live show. So September was just a very difficult month for scheduling for all of us. So yeah, we will see you guys next month with more books and media and crafting and maybe some spooky vibes because Halloween. I can't believe we're almost to October, guys.
I know.
Not happy about that at all.
Yeah.
Not pleased, very disappointed in time this year.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm so ready for fall and winter though. I'm ready for the end of the year. I'm ready for the holiday season, and things get a lot slower for me in like December, and I'm really looking forward to it after kind of some of the
See,
craziness this year. So
term is about to start for us. So 0 week is because my university is on the quarter system. So it's like a lot of places start early September, late August. We start late September. So 0 week is this week, and then official week 1 is next week.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us in the chat, and we will see you next month on Raya's channel. And until then, happy reading and watching. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.